I call it the triangle, which is process, business and technology. In our industry of GBS, everyone in the building understands the business they work in. They understand the process. Where we're not brilliant at the moment is on that technology side.
P2P podcast. Real leaders, real lessons. Real talk on the future of purchase to pay for finance, procurement, and GBS leaders who care about what works, not what sounds good.
So, hello all. My guest today is Romek Lubaczewski. If you worked in global shared services and especially in the CE, you probably come across Romek. If you don't know, then he's here and he will answer a lot of questions. Over the last 30 years, he led more than 200 projects and helped to set up 50 shared service centers around the world. At PwC, he led the shared service center and outsourcing consulting practice for Central and Eastern Europe and played a key role in building 5 PwC own internal centers. So that's a lot. In 2023, Romek, you stepped away from consulting and became what we call now is a relaxing professional. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean he disappeared. You're still deeply involved in everything. And you still regularly speak at industry events and share your knowledge. So we're happy to have you here. And today you take on some of the toughest challenges GPS leaders are facing right now. First of all, how to turn big transformation plans into real results. How to keep GPS a key player in the business, which is very current now. And how to create value beyond just running operations, and mostly important, how to drive change without pushing teams to their limits. You're retired now. You don't look that old, but probably you stopped young. You could be off on the beach now, but you're still here. So still talking about GBS. Why? What drives this to you?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest question you're going to ask me. I'm a bit worried now, Oscar. So I worked for 30 years. Mainly in GBS, actually only in GBS. And to be honest, is the only topic I know anything about. So, you know, when you're a subject matter expert, I'm like a mini subject matter expert. So it's a little bit difficult to not talk about it. Like literally 2 years ago, I stopped working and then I sit at home and I never talk about it. It's almost impossible for me just to sit still and ignore it. I still love the industry. I think it's vibrant. I think it's still got a lot of things to learn and a lot of places to go. So I care immensely. And so I don't work, but when I'm invited to certain conferences and I like the people who run the conference and I think the content's good, then I'll go. So I go to 2 or 3 a year. I don't go to more. Then I turn up and if they ask me to speak, I do, or I just sit there and listen. And I try and keep still in the market, I think mainly because lots of people in the business still come to me and ask me questions about their career, about what they should do, you know, job offers, should I take the job, etc., because I've been in it so long and I'm old and old people are wiser. Most of them.
Most of them. If you would take one core belief or approach, what has shaped you and in the way you worked throughout your career, is there one thing you can name?
Yeah. Only one thing comes to mind, and as a consultant, I hate having one answer. I like to have 3 or 5, but I've only got one. And it's a really simple one to explain, but I'm not sure it's so simple to implement, and it's to be honest. And so I cannot tell you the number of clients in 30 years that I've sat down with. They've asked me questions. I've honestly answered, which sometimes meant I can't do it, or I don't know the answer, or we're not right for you right now. The number of times I've given an honest response, which is not smart to sell work live on that day, but I've been honest to myself and therefore I feel I'm being honest to them. The number of times that client, maybe in a different company or the company's gone and changed angles, directions, have come back 3-4 years later, got an email to me, "Hi Romek, do you remember me?" And if you know me at all, you know my memory is really rubbish. So the answer would be no, but I never write that. Of course I remember you. Do you remember me? We spoke, you said that this and this, and everything you said is correct. I now would like to talk to you again, and can we talk? And I'd go fly out, sit with them, and I'd win work. And I honestly tell you, a majority of my success in business with my team has come from If you don't know, admit you don't know. And if it's not the right for the client, don't just do it for the sake of doing it. Do it because it's good for them. In the middle of a project, I would say to the whole team, are we giving them value? Are we giving them what they need? Are they at the end going to say thank you? And if the answer to any of that is a bit grey, I'd rather stop the project, go to the client and say, I'm not sure this is the right time, we're the right people, or we're looking at it wrong, we need to realign. Be honest. That's my true belief in business, is it pays back. It's probably hit me in the arse a couple of times to be negative, but I tell you, 99 and 100 times it's proven to be. It made me sleep. I never lost sleep over it, and that's a nice thing.
I can see that. In private life, you also take that honesty and directness, and that makes also a lot of people happy.
Yeah, not all. Not all. When my wife says, "Do I look good in this dress?" It's sometimes you don't have to be so honest.
No. Honesty is not always the answer. No, I see that. So if we go a bit deeper into the industry, and I think last days we talked about a lot of technology, etc. But it's all about the shared services, or GBS, how we call that now. What is your reflection over the last year? Where are we now with GPS? What is the current state?
Yeah. I'm going to repeat myself. 30 years in the industry, I say the next 2 years are going to be our toughest for CEE, but I think globally. I think there's a general slowdown. If you ask anyone in a centre, ask any recruiting agency, anyone in the industry, how's it going? All of them say, it's okay. And you get that feeling that it's probably not okay, but you can't say it's a disaster, so you say it's okay. I think we're facing tough times ahead. I think AI pressure, the wrong pressure, by the way, I truly believe, AI pressure on bringing headcount down is making centre managers and the leadership think, how do we do it, and will AI work? And it won't work in every instance, since they're feeling under pressure. Means people don't want to leave their jobs because they're worried about the new place. Are they going to fit in? So I don't think many people are moving, which means there's no spaces left, and getting a new job's becoming more challenging. I think for the leadership, where I'm seeing a difference, I've been saying this for a while, but it's coming true now. I can actually see it. I have examples where before I'd only say the theory of it, which is, if you were a GBS leader when I was 27 years ago, I actually run the operations, the centre, the hiring, the firing, every part of the 150 people in the building. I had a finger in every pie. That isn't true anymore. The operations are run by global process owners often, and they sit in a different country. And what we're seeing now is the centre manager role is more administrative. And I think that's the big change coming as well, which is, do you need to pay top dollar for a guy running an office, or a girl, of course, yeah? And the answer is no. And so my big push for people in our industry, the leadership, not just the top guy, but even layers below, is you can't just be the ops lead, the centre lead, the finance lead. I think you have to be also find another angle, I would call it, about wider responsibilities so that you're delivering more value. And please don't end up being just the centre, the administrator of an office, because that's a job anyone can do, to be really honest. And there's no fun. No. Let's be honest, Oscar, that's not exactly a fun job anyway. So I think we're in tough times. I think it's changing. And the trick and the answer, the trick is really easy. We've got to change. Yeah. We've got to adapt and adjust.
No, I see that as well. Is that also where main part of the GBS talk about themselves? Do they see it also in that way that you prescribe it? And also on the leadership, do you already see a change there in people acting differently, or just try? Because if these coming 2 years are crucial and we are not growing and we need to change, is there already a feeling within the GBS that they want to change? Is that the talk of the town, or is the talk of the town different?
The talk of the town's AI.
Yeah.
And for me, they're hiding behind it. They're using that as an excuse. And deep down, everyone knows AI is not the magic answer. AI is not going to eliminate 20% of the headcount. It's not going to eliminate 20% of the cost. We all know that. They know it. We know it. Our bosses don't, but we know it. I don't think, to the real question you asked, which is, can I see that change in leadership? I think some, but not enough. Honestly, Oscar, I fear for those leadership roles in the future. I think too many of the GBS leadership think they're safe because they've delivered millions of dollars of savings. But unfortunately, in the business world, history's history and the future's the future. They're not, one doesn't tie to the other, not for long. One budget cycle, and you've gone from being an added value to a cost, and costs go. And I worry about that. So I think people do need to wake up. It's a super question. Some have. I can really see some people being really. One of the center managers in Krakow has taken on the role as a global process owner. Brilliant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's got 2 roles, and I think that's super smart, and he's safe for 5 years. I think if you're just the centre manager, I think you've got to be looking over your shoulder the whole time to wonder whether you'll be viewed as a cost and not adding value.
No, I totally agree. We also see with some of the clients that they a good leader doesn't tell everyone what they should do, but actually leading by example. And
Brilliant.
What you say is getting into a GPO role, which is at that moment maybe the most difficult part of the transactional service, which they can't get right. That is a good example of a change. And change is actually also last days where we talked about a lot, and like in technology, also our language improves much faster often than the reality. So there is a lot of talks about transformation.
Yeah.
Luckily today, somebody told that it's reorganization.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, it's also something. You did a lot of transformations. I think the historical transformations might be a bit different than nowadays, because the transformation was going from the head office, going from local to GBS or shared services.
Yeah.
Then we went to GBS, etc. You led a lot of transformations.
Yeah.
If you go back, what was actually the biggest one which you've seen at that time? And no matter if it happened really, if it succeeded or not.
The one I'm probably most proud of, I'm not sure it's the biggest and etc., but the one I think we did a brilliant job helping the client deliver the success that they wanted was PepsiCo. Because the beginning of the project was no centres, and we helped them open 5, and then moved in very, very strange functionality like sales and marketing and procurement, and often processes that you would never start with. So finance, of course, and HR, but many other things that were not common, and they were a bit new to us. So for us to help the client move this stuff, it was more challenging because then it became, we're learning as much as the client is learning, but you're being paid to do it, so you have to look smarter than them. There's that famous thing, be 1 page ahead in a book. Yeah, just make sure you look super smart as long as you're ahead. That one was really, for the whole team, I think we really enjoyed it. It was really challenging, and the outcome was fantastic. And they've gone through another, that was 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I think, PepsiCo have now gone through another change and changed how they work, whether it's by function or territory, etc. And they're moving that around. So they go, like all businesses, they go through a cycle of change. And I always find that a bit strange as well. You kind of go this way, and then 5 years later, you go that way to then go back 5 years later and change. But every now and again, everyone needs a little bit of a kick to understand change is good, which it is, right? And I think that's going to a point which we started about leadership, is I often think that the lead, the best message comes from the leader and the leadership, and they have to believe it. They can't just say, everyone learn AI, and that's it. You should be saying, everyone do AI training, I'm going to be on it as well. And by the way, I did this, I didn't like it so much, but come back and tell me what you thought of, and actually show you're on the same wavelength, the same path, the same learning trajectory as they are. And then it's very difficult for them to say, I don't want to do it because the boss is doing it and he's proving what he preaches, which is that whole thing. I call it the triangle, which is process, business, and technology. You know this, Oscar, me and you talk about it every time we sit down, it comes out, is, in our industry of GBS, everyone in the building understands the business they work in. They really do know what that company does, and they know it from the inside out. They understand the process because they work on it every day, and they've worked on it for 5 years, and they know better than anyone in the whole world. They know it better because they're doing it for the whole world. Where we're not brilliant at the moment is on that technology side. And my push for everyone is, don't go and buy technology, meaning the people to deliver it. Train the people we have to use the right technology, or train them so they know what to go and look at and test and train and play with technology to go and find out stuff that helps business and helps process. Yeah. I think that's a big thing we're not seeing enough of. Everyone thinks, hey, AI is going to come from hiring AI people. I think really that's upside down. I think no one knows enough about AI. There's some guys 1 page ahead, great one, yeah? They're literally 6 months ahead of me, doesn't make them an expert. I can train everyone in the building on the basics, and some of them will rise to the top and you enjoy it, and you train and you train and you train the people who enjoy it. For me, that would be the smartest thing to be doing right now in our industry, is training people for the technology side much more.
Yeah, and that's really also change management.
Yes.
And I think as well, I agree with what you're saying, that the biggest gap in the business is between people, processes, and the technology. Because technology in a lot of transformations is leading. It's automation per se. We need to automate. I always make a joke, and everyone who works in a company knows the CEO went somewhere to an event, saw a beautiful slide, came back and say, "Is by the way, what are we doing with this?" And it can be any way. It can be now. It's of course AI, and also the difference is that people think AI is really a tangible tool. That is one thing. Yeah. It's something you just implement, and which is, we all know it's not. No, and that's also a part which you touch upon. What we also see with a lot of clients is that we're trying to implement AI no matter what.
Yeah.
There is a huge difference with the old technologies, where old technologies were mainly driven by suppliers itself.
Yep.
Yeah, it's software as a service. They explain what the software is doing. They also have examples where you can implement the software. And it doesn't mean that it's a plug and play. It's never.
Yep.
It's also not a solution. It can be an enabler and helping what. And with AI, it's totally different, because it's not one tool. It is also not directly a solution. And the difficulty there is you need to have people who understand how to prompt or how to use it, what is possible. And then the second part we have with AI, bigger than with a lot of software solutions, is that you have the data security, the risk there.
But there's an angle there you just said really important, is everything you said made it sound like the technology was leading us. And I turn that upside down and I say, but if you don't understand the process, you don't actually understand what you do with that bit of paper as it moves through the organization and comes around and ends up on your desk, right? Or the screen or whatever it is. If you don't understand it, why is the technology going to make that better? Why am I going to be able to change it? I don't even know what it is.
No, I agree.
And I think that's why the process knowledge, honestly, for me, is much more important to be successful than purely understanding their technologies available. So I think you can get geniuses in technology, shove them into the office, and they're going to sit there. It's like, I literally remember this in the 80s. That's how old I am. I was at the office and I'd been working on Lotus 123, which 95% of people on the phone on this thing will not even know what that is. But it was before Excel. And I remember they gave me a new computer and they put Excel on it. And then they left me in the corner with this and told me to off I go and do my stuff. And the reality was I hadn't got a clue how to turn it on, how to move the mouse. I'd never had a mouse before. And there was just the general expectation that I would know what next. And so I went straight back to my old PC and did it all in Lotus 123, gave the answer and posted the answer into the accounts. And, it sat there in the corner unused for weeks and weeks until they eventually sent me on Excel training. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And it is a bit like that now, is you've got these magic tools, but if I don't know what it's for, and I don't know what they do, but I don't know what I'm trying to be asked to fix, that's the thing. You have to know the process to understand what's broken. Then why would we think the tool is going to help me? You have to know what's broken first, yeah?
Yeah, and what you're trying to fix.
Yeah.
Or actually, in some cases, it's not even fixing. It's also you're trying to get to a result.
Yeah,
But we see in a
improving.
lot of cases also that it is automation because of we want to automate this repetitive task.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll tell you a story on that one. AI is the big thing, but how long ago was it that we were talking exactly like we are now about AI when it was robotics? 10 years ago, 8 years ago?
Yeah.
Every conference I went to, 3/4 of the conference was robotics, RPA, robotics, off we go, on and on and on and on. And I remember clients shouting, saying, how many robots do we have? Why don't I have 5? And there was no question about was it efficiency, was it worth doing? It was like everyone had a robot and I didn't. And for me, that's a little bit AI at this moment in time, is the bosses think it's AI is the solution, but they haven't defined the problem.
On robotics, I remember that I spoke to a client a few years ago, and he shared with me, are we doing okay? Because we audit companies. And he says, because I implemented 27 robots on my P2P. Until the day of today, I don't know where they are. And my first question was actually is why? Why 27? And also is the problem with robotics and with any automation is once you put the money and the effort in it and you installed it, it is also a part of your process which you will not remove.
Yeah.
Because first you need to have the return on investment. And in a lot of cases, a lot of actions we did in the past, even on a P2P, you just can forget, you just can skip because there is no need to do it anymore because the process changed.
Yeah.
You already mentioned earlier, there is a big change coming years also in GBS. We will not grow and there is an expectation of running down FTEs, etc. What do you think at the moment is the really driving to do that change? Because it's also cutting in yourself.
Look, the way I always look at this is you just got to go back in time and think about how we started in GBS. So we took work from France and Germany and UK with the business case that said we're cheaper in Central and Eastern Europe, but we also said we deliver efficiencies. And that was part of our model. So when we signed off and said we're going to do this project, it's going to cost $20 million and the return is, 5 years and IRR X%, etc., it included an efficiency element. Well, I just see that as a continuation. So it's the next wave of where we are. GBS needs to continue to reinvent itself. It does. We can't just sit back and wait. And there's this constant push as well, which is there's a cheaper place out there, and there is. So obviously I live in CEE, understand this market best. India's cheaper. There's no two words about that. And so you should be asking yourself the question, if the process is well structured, well documented, it's good data, why aren't we doing it in India? I think it's a really, really fair question. And if the answer's, then the answer is that it should be in India. The only flip side to that, I would say right now, is that doesn't mean everyone in CE should be going, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job soon. I think that the question would be for that very basic and easy stuff, which should be in India, it should have gone already, and if it hasn't, it will. But I still think there's tons of work still to come. So we talk about AI as a massive thing, but if you really think through the logic of how will AI best be implemented in the whole company, not in GBS, but the whole company, the answer is that it should be implemented in a shared services or GBS environment. So you should build the team for the whole company in 1, 2, 3 locations, not 57. So I see future growth in data analytics, data mining, robotics, AI, audit of all of those things I've just said, cybersecurity, all of those things should be centralized. And so without a doubt in my mind, I'd be saying to everyone, guys, start asking why aren't we building that capability? And if the answer is we're waiting, that's the wrong answer. Strike now. Say, I want to be the global AI hub. I want to be the global robotics, the global cyber. I want to do that, guys. I will do it. And I think that's how we counter the India efficiencies and all of those, is by taking on literally the workload, which is new, not letting it grow in London, New York and Paris. Don't have 5 people in each, have 10 already in our centres, in our hubs. But you've got to be a bit look into the future to get, Oscar, that outcome. And you have to fight with your boss to fight for you, right?
One of the issues on, say, end-to-end is actually the ownership.
Yeah.
And the ownership, you can't change it because it's compliance-wise needed.
Yep.
You can't change it. The only thing is, and that is in my perspective also the change where GBS should go into, and to confirm what you're saying, is be the one who's saying, is we going to drive AI? And we're going to actually, with AI, create occasions where it does make sense. And if I look to P2P, one of the biggest bottlenecks in my perspective is in automation is still the approvals. Yeah, and although we have clients who have no PO, no pay, there we still see that over 60% of the POs are created after invoice date. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't have control, but the stupid thing is the process in that way creates a sort of a security which is not there. We audited a lot of clients also on their contract compliance, and they all say we have a three-way match in place. I never saw a three-way match in reality, because actually the guy who's doing the contract, he never sees a PO, he never sees an invoice. The one who's matching the invoice or the system which is invoice, they never see a contract. Better to say is they often don't know if there is a contract. So, and I will come to the AI part and the change management for GBS and the ownership. The problem there is that if there is no connection between the PO and the contract, and if there is no, say, timing on a PO and an invoice, you don't have a sound and a control system, and you don't have any governance. So a lot of clients I advised is start to service the business on the PO creation and start also to own the contract management. Because one of the difficulties also in data, what we see is that the description of everything what is agreed in a contract is never coming back on an invoice. But if you make sure that whatever is coming back on an invoice is translated on a PO, and that is the service you can provide, and there AI comes in place, because if you just have the contract management and you can create with AI proper POs, which are also matchable with invoices, then you can create a system which is, and we all agreed also, is it's never 100%. But at least it is the, 85, 90% you need to have. And of course, the manual part you will always keep. Because there is so much maverick spending, which is impossible actually to capture there. And I do agree is then don't try to automate that part, just outsource it. And because it's cheaper, and focus actually on that part. And that brings me back also, you mentioned it before, the question is, what is the GBS leader providing when we move over to the GPO role?
Right.
And that's also an interesting part, is because what is actually the definition of a GPO?
Right. That would be my point, which I said earlier around the GBS role, center lead role, being less and less and less. Because if you take out the process, you're left with a building. And people and payroll. You're not in charge of anything else, right?
No.
So then you're an admin leader, right? I think where the global process ownership definition of the role is not working yet is that too often leadership think that it's contained within what we call GBS. So, you think of procure to pay, you think contracting is probably not in there, but you think the procurement department should be, you think the accounts payable should be. So you don't now say it's finance and procurement, you say it's all one process, right? But I think it's got to go deeper, wider and further, which means every element of procure to pay, there's no, it starts somewhere else. Where it truly starts, as you said, with a PO, in the business, the global process owner needs to be able to influence how that process is actually performed. So they have to go back into the business, which has always been the downfall of GBS, because it's kind of once you've got the invoice, it's a GBS problem. And what happened before is no one knows. It's a black box and no one cares. And don't call me. You should be doing it. Yeah. I think the GPO will work when they can go back into the business and go back, many layers in, and actually understand the start and define the start and the right way to do it. And then when the paperwork moves up and the process starts moving towards what we call GBS, the structure's correct. So good data, good process, good outcome. At the moment, it's a bit shit in, shit out approach, yeah? But there's a GBS and non-GBS. For me, GPO has to go end to end into the business, the core business. And that is where I'm not sure many companies have understood that yet. I'd say that's the big black piece of misunderstanding, and they think it's the global process owners within GPS, that's it. For me, it's truly throughout the business, every part of the business. There's nothing you're not allowed to touch.
No, I agree. But I see as well in many GPO roles, that's not the case.
Clear.
They are an enabler. Yes. They are not an owner. So I'm always...
They have to get chicken or turkeys to vote for Christmas and or in America, what's it called, Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, yeah.
And they don't vote for it, obviously. And so you're fighting something. You say the number one problem is this, and the business says, yeah, don't touch that. In which case, so what do you want me to do? I'll do the number 11th thing, which has 0.1% impact on the process. 27% impact on the process is step one. I'm not allowed to touch it. That's what needs to change. It needs to go really into the business, because that's where the process is. It's not within GBS. It's throughout the organisation.
Yeah, and in the role of the GPO. And then in that case also, what I think is the ownership doesn't need to be tangible, because compliance-wise, you need to have separated. You have to have the Chinese walls.
Yeah.
But then is ownership is not about having it in house, or ruling about it, but to be the strategist behind it. And they should have called it GP, but then everybody thinks it's the doctor. So they put the O at the end. Okay. We both align on the fact that the GPO should be more strategic.
Yes.
Overseeing role. Is also reporting the risks. So in that case, we talked about is the part which you don't want to automate because it's not worth to automate. There you should also be honest and say we're not going to do it. Although anyone in the company says we need to do it because the CEO saw on the slide that it's possible. What do you think is actually also the future of this role? So I talked today to somebody, one of our clients in that role, and he said is actually we have all the transactional. I think we are pretty good set up. We added some extra in the P2P. We do logistics. We do a bit of transfer pricing, etc. His question was actually, what's next?
I think because the GPO role is not well defined or well understood, I think that at the moment it's an implementation function, not very strategic. So I think it's about this bit's broken, I'll go and help fix it, I'll work out how to fix it, where to fix it, who to fix it, what to buy, etc., etc. That's not strategic. And where I think we're not getting there, because you said it yourself, we're not quite there. I think where this role will change is at the moment, because it's not well understood, it's about fixing the broken. I think where we need to be is defining the future end state. And then you step back and say, to get there, we're here. You don't start here, you go, we're here, this bit, this bit, this bit, this bit. So for me, the role changes from at the moment we're doing these little bits here. It's being up here strategically and monitoring the operational bit to get us there. And then every year you change that a little bit, change it, change here, change that. But the reality is it's about moving from implementation to strategic. But you can't forget implementation. So again, I'm not a big fan of where you tell everyone this is where we need to be and then leave the room. I think you need to tell us where to be and how to get there and then help us do it, right? So you need to, a GPO role is a fantastic role in the future because what your job is to see into the future and then come back to today and work out how to get there and then make it happen. So it's a really fantastic job. There's no doubt about it. It's just not so well understood yet. Not many good examples out there in the world, I have to say as well.
No. I totally agree. And in this discussion today, I also heard him responding is they take in the transactional, so not strategic. They add some value add work, not strategic. It's still enabler, service provider. That's, I think, also still a bit the thought process of a lot of GBSs. We are a service supplier. They should be, like you said, is I own or I bring you the value. Although some of our clients already call what they do operational excellence. I don't know what that means, but we will not touch it. One of the things I said to him as well is because he said is we now audit also some of the processes. We audit procurement and we report it back. So and then I asked, is what does it mean audit? We look at some of the contracts, how many times they review it, how many times they actually renegotiate, etc. And I said, is that's maybe interesting, but it's still a bit of a, I don't know, monitoring role. Why not actually is look at the contracts? You have several suppliers in the same category. So, and of course, as a center, you may have a bit too less data to judge, but you could also report and act. So do proposals to the procurement is you have this contract that's far outperforming the other contracts. Or even you see in the market already changes and you didn't act upon it. And also there be more strategic in the procurement, which is still maybe a service level, but it's a next step which is still not really happening. And one of the examples I gave him is what we see in, for instance, in telco. And I must be honest, I have it the same with my telephone. You have the contracts where you can call indefinitely, you SMS indefinitely. You only pay for the data. And then maybe for your phone on a monthly basis. But actually, if you analyze really the use of the telephones, then it's actually here in Europe and especially also in the States, data uses, it's not that much because most people use their phone when they're in a Wi-Fi environment.
Yeah, you're right.
Nobody calls anymore. Nobody SMSs anymore. Although you SMSed me this afternoon, so I'm happy because I'm using I'm using what I pay for. So there is definitely also a strategic part where you could say is okay, we can change that. We're buying the wrong. So you go a bit more to the sourcing part. And say is we're buying the wrong things because we don't need printers. Nobody's printing. And that is already a bit happening, but I think also in GPO role, it can be more strategic. You can more say value add and go in that direction.
Agree. I'll take a little bit forward what you said. It came to my mind a really good example of how changing the process would allow AI to be so efficient, which is if you could influence as a global process owner the contract structure and format and say, these are the titles, this is what it's meant to look like. When we renew, I want it to look this way. And then you enforce it, so it actually happens. And you said, and we have 5 vendors, think how AI could go in and check all 5 contracts and do the comparison and work out for you where the weaknesses are, which is the most expensive, depending on various scenarios, etc. And you would be able to, with AI, definitely, because we saw it in the last few days, it would tell you which is the optimal contract of them based on 3 scenarios, right?
No, I agree.
But at the moment, you have 5 contracts. They're in such different formats that you put AI on it, and it really highlights the differences. But it's so difficult to compare because it's an apple and an orange, and all you're saying is it's fruit. Well, I know it's fruit. Which is the better one? Or which do you prefer, an apple or an orange? I mean, there's no answer to that. But if you structured it, which we always talk about, me and you, is about data, isn't it? Quality of data. Get the contracts uniform as much as possible. AI comes into heaven for us, right? Because you just go press a button and 15 minutes later you get a full analysis and comparison of the 5, and then you go down to 3.
No, I agree.
Save a lot of money for the business.
No, and it's already, we apply it already on for instance, telco, because there also one thing what you can also do is with the data is analyze what's actually the use and what's the demand. Yeah, and if I go further to the telco, what we see, for instance, is if you go to Africa or a big part of Asia, you don't have the accessibility of Wi-Fi. So a lot more people call, send them text, etc. Because if you don't have a data access, then you can't send a WhatsApp or whatsoever. But on that case, also you can with AI look through the web what is available and what are the prices. And you will find out that actually, if you do a contract with an African supplier, calling calling is much cheaper than you do with AT&T or Vodafone or whatsoever. But you made global contracts because you thought, if I centralize all my spend in my telco, I'm better off. But in some cases, we even saw that you can easily reduce costs more than 20%. Just by a different sourcing. And I think also in that end-to-end process ownership, I think that is a strategic move where
but there's other costs to save. Think about it. Instead of having 5 contracts, you have 3. So there's a load of saving in there of negotiation and the paperwork and all of that. Then there's the processing of them. So it's 3 invoices a month and not 5. So you can reduce the net cost by 20%, but there's probably another 5%, 3% of other costs surrounding it all, which add complications, remove the complication. You need less people, less time. All of those means less errors, right?
No,
and so you end up actually being better, not just cheaper.
Again, we talk about AI and where is it applicable. Still, there is a belief also in the GBS that technology is really making the change. No. And did you see recently, and I also know we got a survey today with a question, did you ever see a proper return on investment on an AI implementation? Did you?
No, I haven't seen that many AI implementations, so all I've seen is lots of pilots, which take much longer because everyone's going through that learning curve. But I'd question as well, name a company that has said, the Oracle or SAP for HANA, whatever other big backbone to finance that is implemented, that at the end they said, it was brilliant. I really enjoyed that process. It came in on time, on budget, and I can tell you now it's worth every penny. How many companies have you ever got? We've only been together 60 years in industry. I haven't got one.
No, I have. That was also one of the questions. Where do you see the expectation match? And of course, it's also funny who you talk about this, because I also talk to people, and they. So last year it was to many of our clients transformation to SAP HANA.
Yeah.
Big expectations. To be honest, I didn't see one migration going without any trouble.
Yeah.
One of the biggest issues was that, and sometimes even like a whole country like North America, they couldn't pay for a month via the SAP, but they already had a cutoff date of the previous one. So then afterwards you need to do all the admin, etc., which is a nightmare, and which is so I didn't see any migration to SAP HANA going great. And then it's also feels like a iPhone. You have one, you don't use it.
Mm-hmm. It's full capability.
No. So that is also a SAP HANA. It's probably wonderful.
It is. The processes within it are absolutely world class. And then the company goes in and says, but we want to do it differently. There's a bit of a misunderstanding is in data analytics, data mining. I don't know what the difference is, but I think they're the same. Is what we do is the client says, go and do some analysis and give us some conclusions. And so we work with their team, and we show them how to use Celonis and all the other products, and we go deep dive and look at this. And we come back and we say, Finland's number of invoices with a 3-way match is 12%. And Sweden 72%, and we show all of this. And the person, the finance CFO says, that seems so interesting. Why is Finland so low? And we go, we'll have to deep dive. Oh, go and deep dive. We go, and 3 weeks later we come back and go, in Finland because of this and this, and then there's, no, go and find out. and you do weeks and weeks, millions of euros that will get churned away. And so I get to the real finding, but the answer at the end is still Finland only had 12%, and that's the problem. I don't really need to work out much more. You just go to Finland and go, what are you guys doing? You're doing it all wrong, clearly, yeah? And if they ask why, you just go, come on, I mean, look at it. I don't think, and I think that's the problem with the data mining, is it's fun to do. It becomes like you think you're Poirot, the mighty investigator. Oh, let's go deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's really interesting what comes out. And you sit there. What I think is not working is taking that to then fixing. I miss the fixing bit. I see the finding. Fixing seems to just disappear. And that's the mistake in that. But I have to say, when I think of AI and data mining and data analytics, I think data analytics and data mining will bring much better outcomes in the shorter to medium term. Because I think if we do that analysis, I think we can actually highlight areas which are poor and go and improve the process. Not with automation, just go and fix the process, allowing us to then use AI and automation to make it actually much more efficient.
Yep. No, I agree. Yeah, the data mining is actually checking the data quality and looking what you can do with the data. Data analytics is trying to get the information out. You named also the process mining part.
Yeah.
We see also some of the clients who used it or are using it, and also very various results there. We already saw a few aborted it, and we all know that the process mining tools are very expensive.
Yeah.
And it costs also a lot of stuff to implement.
Yeah.
And what we also see is when it's used actually also to find bottlenecks, you need to follow up on it. And it will show you also a lot of items which are actually not wrong, but there are only errors in the data. Yeah, and we call that false positives.
Okay, yeah, I hear you.
So if you have a process which is looks the same and is done twice, it's often also because of the booking. Yeah, they rebooked it or whatever. And there we see also a lot of fatigue.
Yeah.
When people looked at many false positives, then all of a sudden they stopped to do it. The same we see a bit in the new thing is automating statements request.
Yep.
Yeah, and one part we see that it's and the automation I understand because it's actually emailing to your vendors and getting the response and also automatic reading in the response in your ERP. There are also solutions which are telling that they do the reconciliation where I don't see any good results there. I recently spoke to a company. They started to implement it, and they shared with me is that to align the response to the right account, they need to do it manually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because actually, to be honest, I have 20 times PwC in my system. I sent them 20 times, but they see transparent as just one company. Yeah, so I get 20 times the same response. But I need to figure out on the response of the statement, first of all, if it's correct.
Yeah.
If you're not only sending me what money you get from me, but then I need to figure out as well which part consists to which PwC I have in my system. So she shared as well and it's a huge food company. She says we spend a lot of money on acquiring the software. We hired consultants actually to help us with the implementation and the structuring of the software because it's not a one fits all.
Yeah.
And so we already did the investment, so we need to move on. We now have actually, because we don't have the resources to do more, we do about 25 vendors a month.
Right.
Manually. And then they hope to get to, let's say, 200. And then I finally asked okay, why do you do it? do you have such a problem? Do you have such huge differences between what you are administrating, accounting, and what the supplier is thinking they need to receive? And they said, no, actually not. But it was, again, leadership came back and it said, I heard we can automate it. So let's automate it. And I asked them before that, did you do the vendor reconciliation? No, we never did. So in that case, it's a perfect example where actually people create problems with technology rather to fix a problem. Because they never had a problem. Yet they knew that actually they were missing out maybe 1 promille of what they spent on information they never received. And to me, that is actually a part where you say is, okay, now you need to do 80% effort to get 1% gain. I don't know how it was in your life with PwC, but when I will present internally a project which is actually costing $80 and the return on investment will be 1, everybody is laughing at me. So, but okay, I think we talked enough today.
We have, my friend.
For anything on transformation and GBS. I would say thank you very much. Is there one last thing or a good joke you want to add to this?
I'm not a jokey kind of guy, funnily enough, Oscar. No, I don't know any jokes.
Just serious, is it?
Yeah, I'm quite a serious chap. Never remember jokes. I'd say a couple of little half things. One is, I think, ignoring AI, you're an idiot, but over-relying on it, you're an idiot. There's a balance between there, and I think it's a leadership thing within the GBS community. I think you have to stand up to your boss and say, I'm not doing 5 AIs just because you want 5. That's ridiculous. Let's do it the right way. And the right way for me is training our own people. And I think that's my big takeaway, is that 3-leg thing. I think where we should be really focused in on taking people I have and like and trust, and I love them and they're brilliant and they're clever and they're young and they want to do technology, take those and give them the training around technology. Let them learn with the consultants, as I said. So it's not the consultant doing it, it's doing it with my guys. And my guys watch and start learning how to do it. And then my expectation is in a year, 6 months, they start doing it themselves and we don't need consultants. But it has to be people who want to do it, right? So there's that. They have to have a passion. And so you might start with 5 and at the end there's 2, but that's okay. I like 2 with passion than 5 with no passion. But for me, that would be the big takeaway is technology is getting faster. It is. There's more of it and it's more change focused, more and more quickly. I think if we sit there and wait, we're idiots. We've got to be more involved. And I think their involvement is understanding the solution set is about training my people. That for me is the big GBS takeaway.
I would say thanks.
Thank you, my friend.
Honestly,
Thank you,
I enjoyed this very much. And honestly, I also like to have a beer.
Yeah.
So let's go. Thanks.
Indeed, man. Thank you.
Bye.
If you like this episode, follow our channels or sign up at transparentglobal.com for more insights.